There we go. All right, cool deal. All right, we are back with How Should I Introduce You? And I have two really good friends of mine with me today, Marc Johnson and Shanel Anthony. Marc Johnson is a strategic communications expert, and he's working agency side in NYC. Born in DC, grew up on 3rd and Jefferson Northwest, and is the father of a 1-year-old. Shanel Anthony, his family migrated from Sierra Leone in 1970. Born and raised in Petworth in Northwest DC. Played football at Dematha High and then went on to play football at Bryant University as well. Has worked in healthcare for the past 15 years. Currently a sales manager at Medtronic, a husband, and a recent father of 2. And his belief is that you can go far if you go together. So I want to thank Marc and Shanel, man, for joining me on this edition of How Should I Introduce You, man? How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing good, Sal. Everything's great, man.
Good stuff, man. So, I've tried to be intentional with these pairings, and one of the things that I've noticed about the two of you, just talking offline all the time to the both of you, is that you both born uptown DC, Northwest DC, born and raised in the 80s and 90s. Ventured from your neighborhood to other parts of town, playing sports and, making those sorts of connections. And one thing that we've talked about separately in our respective conversations is, leveraging those experiences and bringing your entire you to the work that you do. There's some people who shy away from their experiences in the inner city, and some people who think that those experiences are not of value, but the two of you have talked to me extensively about how valuable those experiences are. So either one of you can chime in and talk about how you bring your entire you to the work you do.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, I'll jump in first. I mean, so I think, you're 100% right. Growing up, having the experience that we had in DC, growing up in the 80s and 90s, first and foremost, you get a chance to grow up in an urban and city environment. At that point in time, urban and city environments were always almost completely Black. But DC was a little special in the sense that it was not only completely Black in terms of the residents, but that sort of, found its way into the local government, things of that nature. So you sort of get the opportunity to sort of see yourself as a Black person in society and see all different types of Black people in your day-to-day, right? You see working class Black people, you see poor Black people, you see rich Black people, you see Black people that work in government, you see Black people that have their own businesses. And from that standpoint, you aren't taught the type of inferiority to think that there's only one place for you or one path for you. And from that kind of frees you. The ignorance of that is really bliss in the sense that it frees you. You walk into these rooms, you don't automatically feel like you got to outperform. You're just like, hey, I'm smart. I understand. I know what I'm doing. I think that was one of the first things that I brought to the table. I think also, growing up where I grew up, the proximity to the number of other people my age and having to grow up in an environment that quickly shifted to an environment that could have been dangerous if you didn't know how to handle yourself politically. You didn't know how to leverage relationships. You didn't understand, you know what I mean? That when you go into this particular place, you need to not do X, Y, and Z, or you need to tuck this part of yourself in when you walk into this particular neighborhood. Or, if you go into this particular spot, you need to call ahead and talk to some friends that you know, right? and honestly, the ability to leverage that way of working a network, a political network, allows you, when I walk into corporate environments, it's similar, right? Like, I'm in no way, shape, or form would you ever find anyone who would consider me to be a major, some sort of major player in any particular neighborhood. When I was growing up, I was a kid that sort of stayed on, whatever path I needed to stay on. I got on that E-bus. I went across to Deal and Wilson and just kind of handled my business, have fun when I needed to have fun, but also maintain the relationships I had in the neighborhood that I grew up in to a certain extent. And being able to play that on both sides made me a lot more flexible when I get into a corporate environment, because I understand how to survive and advance by leveraging the relationships and the networks that have been built out. And you'd be surprised how many of our counterparts don't really know how to do that and get significantly frustrated by adversarial political environments. And we just sort of take it in stride and keep moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How about you, Shanel?
So first off, I got to tell you, this has been the highlight of my day, other than playing with my kids, right? Because hearing Marc talk is I felt like you were saying exactly what I was saying, right? But more importantly, this is so dope, Silas, because Marc said it, right? Marc, how'd you said that E-bus, so you must have walked to Fort Totten or you took
man. So I'm right on 3rd and Jefferson. I'd go down to 4th and get on the E right at 4th and Kennedy. And keep moving like every day. That was my thing, you know?
Ain't no part of Kennedy ever been sweet, right? So
nah, man, so nah.
You had to be Marc on the E-bus. You had to be Marc at Deal. You had to be Marc at Wilson. And how you introduce yourself, Silas, is so profound because it sounds simple, but it's so dynamic because we are different people in different circles, right? Like Silas introduced me as Shanel. Some people call me Shanel. Some people might call me Smoke. Some people might call me Anthony, depending on what decade you met me in or what circle we're in. I'm a different person. So introducing myself is a little difficult because I sometimes I'm confused on what circle do I know this dude from, and even more, who. And this is a little self-reflective, but who do I want this person to know that I am?
Right.
Right. Like growing up in DC, to your point. Look, sometimes I was a bully, and sometimes I got bullied. Right. So I think that shows itself in corporate America, right? Like you take your L's, but you win more than you lose, right? But more important, but I think most importantly, you have to be your genuine self. So 100%. I live in DC. I'm from DC. I work in DC, right? Like my team from Florida to Seattle, they know that's Shanel from DC, right? And I found success in realizing that we have a story, and our story, no matter how, yours can be Marc from 3rd and Jefferson, mine can be African parents moving to DC, being African booty scratcher, going through all of that made me who I am, and all of that is what helps me be successful. And to your point, is what leads me to feel like I'm enough when I'm the only one in the room. Right? I just had this conversation with a cat today. It was like, nah, we're more than enough. Like we know we got to work harder. We know the fact that we're in that room, we're above par. We're not just at par. So growing up in DC, learning how to navigate through different environments, just to make it out during the 80s and 90s, right? You got to have a certain level of resiliency, but you got to have savvy too. So to me, I think that's I would say, Silas, that's how I try to. I think that's what's helped me be successful, being my genuine self and appreciating what DC has done for me, because all of its diversity has made me who I am. And when I really embraced it, that's when I was unstoppable, because I've been through every environment, right? Like the boardroom, are you crazy? I joked with Silas, like, come out of the black hole on Friday night, right? Like, what are these jokers, what are they going to say to me or do to me? Like, are you crazy? Like, I live uptown, right? Like, something for Taylor beefing with Rock Creek. I'm crossing through the neighborhood. Like, you got to know, all right, look, hey, windows now, be cool, right? You don't know what's going on. So I've navigated all of that. So this work stuff don't, it gets on my nerves sometimes, but it doesn't, I don't let it get to me, because we've gone through more. I'm battle tested.
Was there a moment for each of you where it clicked, like I've got it, and I can handle this corporate thing based on my experiences? Was there a moment where it kind of clicked in for you guys?
I know for me, Silas, I think I texted you. This was years ago. I heard Les Brown speak. I don't know if you know the motivational speaker.
I listened to him.
And Les talked about your story is valuable. And I was like, I always knew something was different about me, right? Like I got a diverse family background. We all took different paths. But when he said that, I was like, whoa, my story is different. And all the quote unquote bad things about your story make you who you are. And it's not a bad thing. It's just your journey. And I think when I heard that, I was like, you know what? I had it, but that just gave me the push to just be even more genuine and authentic with who I am.
Yeah, for me, I can't like really pinpoint like an actual specific time, but I do know that there was a point in time probably around, I say 2009, 2010. Actually, I can't probably, it was probably the time when I was out in Asia, Silas, for like, what, it was like 5.5, almost 6 months working in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And being there and working with their government and understanding that nobody really there had seen a Black American that sort of worked from an intellect standpoint, not, from a movie star or sports entertainment standpoint, but came in as a, completely focused communications expert, talking about digital strategy and things of that nature. And being able to push through the fact that I know that I'm being underestimated just because they've got a different understanding of what Black America is. And then being able to push through that and still be able to sort of deliver the type of results I had to deliver and being successful in that project. I sort of, when I came back from that, I was like, I can do this. This is like, and once I got back on one of like the projects that were just stateside, I was just like running circles around them and like knocking things down and asking for more on my plate. I was used to working 17, 18-hour days when I was there. So when I got back, I was like, shoot, a regular 8-hour day ain't nothing. Like, let's keep moving. And I got hungry and hungrier for more like success. And I think from there, it was when that appetite for being successful, not climbing a corporate ladder or anything, but actually putting accomplishments, things that I've done and work that has been respected on the board. That's what I cared about the most. You know what I mean? And then being able to revisit some of the competitive things that, like the same competitive juice that I had going to Rudolph to play, pickup basketball back in, 88, 89, 90 as a kid, I get the same rush when I go into a room to pitch some new business. So I'm like getting after it that way too. And loving to sort of compete against other agencies, loving to look at, new briefs. And then once I really got to a point where, it was no longer for me, like get up, put on some clothes, go to work and do what they tell me to do. It was more like, all right, what do we got? What's on the board? Hey, can we do this? Can we? Once I got it and I started actually driving, it felt like, yeah, let's do it. That's about 2009, 2010, maybe, when that started to happen.
Hey, Mark, Rudolph, y'all had those little courts, right?
We had the little joints, yeah. You can run whole sideways on the little courts. It was funny when we was kids.
I used to walk up there and play. Yeah.
Yeah, we would have these. It was weird. It was never like a little tournament, but it was like this real, like this like weird rivalry with the kids that be up at Barnard from Delafield would come down, and they would always get like a 2-on-2 game with 2 kids from Rudolph versus 2 kids from Delafield. And man, that used to be some of the best like basketball that no one will ever really talk about anywhere, but it was a lot of fun for us, man. I love Rudolph, man. That was. I mean, it's a different school now. I can't really go up there and put up any shots anymore, but it was a good look back in the day.
I understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mark, you told me a story some years ago about your dad and how he basically cleared a path for you to go into the field that you're in. And you talked about him going to your school, and I don't want to give the story away, but it's a real story. So I would rather you tell it to Shanel, because I think it's a real cool story to hear.
Word. So yeah, I mean, tell me if I need to shorten it up a little bit, but I'm gonna try to get through it pretty quick. So Shanel, I was 15. My dad worked 37 years in the post office, and he was a letter carrier for a long time, and then eventually became like the manager at a Friendship Station, which is really close to Woodrow Wilson. And I was 15. I was just finishing my sophomore year. I was in the 10th grade, and in the beginning of the summer, he was like, "Yo, you got about 45 days." I think he gave me like a month and a half to tell him what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I'm 15 years old. Like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? And he's like, if you can't give me a good answer, I'm gonna take it from you, and I'm gonna determine what it is. So, I was like, all right, yeah, I got you, right? And you think a month and a half to a 15-year-old kid is like 3 years to a 44-year-old guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, whatever. Like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And lo and behold, like, I went through, had fun with my summer, didn't really think about it much. And then when it got down to it, he asked me the question like almost to a T. And I ain't really had none. I can't even remember. It was such a bad answer that I gave him. I don't even remember what it was. It was something like sports, something crazy, something stupid. You know what I mean? Anyway, and not that sports is stupid, but at the time I wasn't really, if I was really serious about sports, I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do to be serious. I was just having fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's like, all right. So I show up the first day of 11th grade, and you can go. You have your core classes, but then you go to the registration, and you just determine whatever electives you're going to take. And I'm ready to get some team sports going, some extra gym periods and all that, right? I got a full schedule. I'm like, yo, I go to my counselor. I'm like, Mr. Powell, what's going on here? He was like, oh, you have no idea what just happened. So he sits down and tells me, it's like, your dad came up here every day on his lunch break for probably 2 months. So they're working with me to put together a 3-year plan to get you on a path. And we looked through all your old test scores that we got from Deal. We looked at where you excelled, where you didn't excel. We looked at, he went and pulled all the old stuff he had from you being graded in elementary school. And we just like drew a path. And we focused here on journalism and English and journalism. And that's what path you're on. So here's your journalism class. I was in intensive English and all this. And it just, I mean, I was at a point where I was like, I was pissed, but I was like, well, shit, he made the call. So I just started rolling with it. And, you know, I get into the journalism class, and when I get there, the teacher, we were running through all the class, but then she's like, if you're in this class, I want you to also participate on the school newspaper. So I show up for the newspaper meeting, and I told her I want to write sports. She's like, cool, but I got a senior that's graduating that does the design and layout. I want you to go with her and learn how to do design and layout. So I'm like, all right, cool. I get to mess around on the computer. That's cool. I get to go. We had to look a little Mac like in the back. I was like, all right. She showed me all the stuff. I started doing certain pages for her, and I got used to it to the point where I took over the design and layout, and I started doing different things with the paper and stuff like that. And I really got into the design and layout of the paper, but I also kept writing for it was called the Beacon, the Woodrow Wilson Beacon. I kept writing for it. And anyway, we get to a point where we're winning awards for paper design and stuff like that. And I really get into this area of sort of graphic design, sort of, right? And I get to Hampton, and when I'm in Hampton, fast forward on like my junior year in Hampton, I apply for this internship at a physics lab that's right outside in Newport News in Hampton, Virginia, and right outside of Hampton University. And they give me the internship, and I'm sitting in the room. I can still, to this day, this is exactly when my career went to. The only reason I got the internship because I knew how to do design and layout. I knew how to use PageMaker and stuff like that. And they were like, "Oh, we could definitely use you to help us with some of our internal stuff." And I'm sitting in the room one day, and then one of the guys who runs experiments there was from Norway. He was like, "Yo, is anybody in here that I can teach HTTP protocol?" And everybody looked at him like, "What the hell is that?" It's like 96. He was like, "What the fuck is that?" And like, I don't know what that is. And they were like, "Yo, take the intern." They didn't even know. Like, he came in and said, "Yo, I'm trying to give somebody a career. Does anybody want?" He didn't really know. So this dude takes me to another office, teaches me HTML, has me build out a table for him so he can put all of his results from his experiment so they can run counter experiments in Norway. So every day he'd come in, give me the stuff I had to update the table with, but he'd show me something new color and stuff. So from that point forward, I get into digital strategy, which is how I ended up going into agency world and all that. And my career has been on that path ever since. And it all started because my dad decided to take some interest in if I'm actually following a path or if I'm just letting life happen to me. You know what I'm saying? So he gets big props for that.
That's this story is unique, but it's not, right? Because the elements that I took from that story were somebody cared, right?
Right.
Most importantly, a father, right? And it's crazy. From an illiterate trash truck driver to a letter carrier to an African immigrant who was a teacher, right? All of our parents were in our lives, right? And by society standards, we're successful. So to me, I think that says something about fathers. And then the other element that I think really stands out with that example, which is unbelievable, because that Pops wasn't playing with you, Mark.
He wasn't playing, yo. He'd take your lunch up to school. Like, he'd take his lunch to Wilson to go sit in the office with my counselor. Damn. It was crazy. Not once, not twice, for like a month and a half, every day.
That small commitment, though, changed your whole life, right?
100%. 100%.
Somebody has to believe in you, and then your man from Norway, you got to get a break.
Hey. Right. Like, I walked into that one. That was, whoo.
Hey. But you had laid the foundation to get a break. Look, it sounds silly, right? But I marvel at the fact that my professional success has been grounded in selling drugs, right?
Yo, bro. Hey.
I live in DC. I've seen the 80s. We know Rayful. We know Tony Lewis. My success has been in selling legal drugs, right? Pharmaceuticals. My life has never been threatened. I've never been at risk of going to jail. I've always had a company car, 401k, benefits, everything, right? And it's funny, you say growing up in DC and how it shaped you. You're right. I saw trash truck drivers. I saw letter carriers. We saw mayors. We saw everything, right? Like the sky was really our limit, but we needed that extra push, whether it came in the figure of a father or a sibling. It just speaks to the importance of role models. And Silas and I were talking about this probably a month ago. I don't know when it happens, but there's a point in our life where Carl and I were talking about this the other day. You can make a left or you make a right. For some reason, we made a right. Maybe it was divine intervention. Maybe it was your father pushing you. I don't know what it was, but for some reason, we made a right. And I know it's divine intervention because we have friends who made a left and they've never got back on track, right?
Right.
So
100%.
So I'd love, Silas, sorry to ask this question, but I'd love to hear from you. Like, what do you think? What I mean, your father pushed you, but you kept on that path. You could have made a left, even though he pushed you on that path. What kept you on that path?
Man, I think that my experience in my household, my experience in my extended family structure, my experience in church, my experience in my neighborhood, my experience at school. I had so many unique experiences, man, but there was something in me that motivated me not to be an embarrassment for my mom and dad. There's so many decisions that I made, so many things that I went without because I just did not want to see my dad be disappointed or my mom be disappointed. I remember seeing them talk about, and not in a gossip way, but just, reflecting on other people and the troubles that their children caused them. And as a kid, I just didn't want to bring that home. And I was always proud when my dad would say to other men that he was talking to, my son has never brought me any trouble. So I think that was really a motivating factor. And also, we talked a bit offline about his educational limitations. My dad was a sharecropper, right? So we talk about reparations, and we talk about, civil unrest in this country. I remember my dad telling me that his dad got a penny from sharecropping one year, literally a penny. So as a kid, I didn't understand that. And then as an adult, I run across this infographic that talks about the oppressive nature of sharecropping and how it purposely robbed Black people of their potential for wealth. And I'm looking at it like, man, if my dad had a chance to go to school, or if my dad's dad had a chance to earn more money, like how much more property my family would have had, how much more money my family would have had. And this is not 1860 or 1760. This is 1960, right? This is 2020. I'm impacted by that. So I know firsthand what it's like to be in a situation where, my family, its heritage was robbed of its potential. And those sorts of things weigh on me a lot when it comes to me making decisions and doing all that I can to be the best representation of my dad. And I share his name as well. So that's an added push for me not to do anything that would, publicly embarrass his legacy.
That's a good answer.
What about you, Mark?
Honestly, man, shit. Fear, like the consequences was real. Like, I'm serious. Like you talk about, like, I mean, just like you, I know what the consequences are to be a step too slow or a step late coming out of the black hole on a Saturday night. That light come on, I'm out of there. The lights come on, I'm out of there, and I'm getting in my car and I'm gone. And so I'd say one part of it is fair. Like I understood what the consequences were for making that left and not getting it right. Like the margin of error was so slim, I just didn't trust myself enough to be able to deal with it. So I'm like, you know what? I got this other alternative of going, to school a completely different part of the city, meeting other kids whose parents, put them on a bus to go to school in a completely different part of the city. And those friends, whether they know it or not, they gave me an opportunity to relax and be myself for even just a little bit. And being able to build relationships with other brothers that, ain't trying to be something that they not, and just really just having a good time and being kids. Like, at the time I didn't really understand it or appreciate it, but looking back on the entirety of that part of my life and looking at where I am right now, had I not had those relationships and that outlet, there's no telling what kind of post-traumatic stress I'd be dealing with right now, trying to be something or trying to, not be prey in the situations that I would be in those parts of the city where I grew up.
Yeah. I want to chime in on that because all of us went to, schools out of our boundary. And I think that was a real difference maker for me. And also the outlet with church as well. Church, out of boundary schools, and really a strong parental structure at home allowed me to, like you said, Mark, be who I am truly. And the people that I quietly idolize as kids, man, it's amazing to hear them come up to me and like tell me how proud they are that I didn't take their route. Right. And it's reassuring to me that I did the right thing. And I try to honor those people as well, because, those people that we walked past that were hanging outside, that were, doing God knows what, they were rooting for us. Right. And they still are rooting for us. And, we can never get too far from them. We still have to represent them because, as much as we idolize them growing up, now we're in a point where, they are looking to us for help, and we got to be that help for them in return.
So well said, man. I don't think any professional accolade or notoriety will equal or surpass the feeling I get when I walk through my neighborhood and some dudes who made a left, especially when I was the ANC commissioner, would be cheering me on. And I'm like, man, this is why you do this. for the homies who made some mistakes, but now, I don't want to say this derogatory, but now you're their responsibility. Like, they need you to step up and help them out because for whatever reason, it doesn't matter, but they need you, and this is who you represent. Man, I walking to the corner store and seeing somebody cheer me on or saying, hey man, whatever you need, we got you, or keep doing that, man. We love what you're doing, man. You're gonna be mayor one day, right? Or just something crazy like that, right? Like, right. I don't want to be mayor, but just the fact that you even see me in that light, and you acknowledge what I'm trying to do for the community, man. It's
hard to, at that point in time in your life, if you put yourself in their shoes, to have somebody who has some representation to really understand their story, right?
Said,
and be able to still have the respect for them, right? It's few and far in between, and that's why you're right. It's a position that you gotta really covet. It's pretty much like a position of servant leadership in some way, shape, or form. Like, I remember I got a lot of it. I used to coach Lamar Riggs, football, and I coached it for only 6 years. And you would always run into cats. I ended up coaching the sons of cats that I grew up with, and it's just interesting to have those conversations. Because, truth be told, like, a lot of really talented kids that I grew up with. I mean, I'm talking about like some really smart folks, and I wish Sal was still on because he went to Coolidge with a lot of them. But we talking about like some of the strongest leaders I've ever seen, some of the smartest people I ever seen. There's one guy I know that went to school with Sal. I won't say his name because I know we're recording. He passed away. It's probably like 10 years ago, and we grew up, like, we went to the same babysitter. We went to the same elementary school. He ended up going to Jefferson. I ended up going to Deal, but we still were kind of cool because he lived like 4 or 5 blocks from me. And I remember at one point in time when I was at Deal, he's at Jefferson. We got into this program together and we took the SAT, and he got like a 900. In like the 7th grade, he had like a 900. and we talking about a kid that if Sal was on and he would know exactly what I'm talking about. Notorious. Because, he took a different, and it wasn't necessarily like him determining that this is the path I want to take. It was just like the dynamics of his family life and the things and all the stuff he's dealing with put him in a position where he had to do things that, or grow up a little bit faster than he needed to. And when you take an adolescence and you point it at adulthood and it's not fully baked, that type of stuff happens. You know what I'm saying?
What if your father didn't go to Wilson during his lunch?
Who knows, bro? Who knows, bro? Who knows?
And your father was there. Homie's father wasn't even there.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. 100%.
So at the bare minimum, your father was there, so you had structure. So to your point, like, we gotta respect homies who didn't necessarily take the same path. Like, I think accountability is number one, but at some level, it's like, what you expect? Like, this is like this dude's family background. Like, I got homies whose parents were real fiends, right?
Yeah.
Like real dope fiends.
Right. Right.
Like, is he supposed to be president? Like,
how do you get out of your own way? Because you know how the world looks at your parents, and you come from that. So how do you look at yourself in your subconscious? How do you look at yourself, and how do your decisions that you make in a split second, or the ones that you make that you don't really think through all the way, how much do they say about where you see your self-worth because of what you see your parents doing? It's crazy, yo.
And look, and to your point, you say, well, shoot, you live in DC, you've seen black mayors, you've seen politicians, you've seen lawyers and doctors. Yeah, but that's not me, right? That's always the comment.
Right.
But they different. And to a degree they are, but to a degree they aren't, right? So you're right. How do you see past your reality?
Right.
I think that's why it's imperative for guys like us to to help any way we can. And I have difficulty saying no, because I realize, hey man, I may just give a brother one conversation and that may be something, right? That's why I always joking. Right. I joke with people and say, I've been successful selling drugs, right? And they laugh, but it's like, like it's funny, but like seeing those dudes, because we all looked up to them. They had the money, they had the cars, they had the girls, right? But you saw their hustle, and that's the part that I took, was like, yo, no matter what I'm going to do in life, it's going to require hustle, right? Because hustle gets you that, whether it's baggies or whether it's medicine or whether it's communications, regardless of what it is, I got to hustle.
Right.
And hustle pays off.
100%.
So, hey, we lost you for a second, Sal.
Yeah, man. I don't know what happened, man, but I'm back, man. I'm glad you guys continued the conversation. I missed out on it, but I'm sure as I look
we were talking about upbringing. I was saying, like, I was telling some stories about not using any names, but about cats that I know you went to Coolidge with, that I grew up with, and just thinking that where that path covered, because like we talking about cats that spent a ton of time in my house, who my parents loved to death. You know what I mean? And you get to that point where I start going to school in one part of the city, and they stick to the neighborhood, and it just those things start to dissipate a bit. And you start to see I mean, I know I still definitely had the utmost respect for them. They were probably in a different space in life where they were focused on other things, but it's interesting how that happens, man. And it's just interesting, something in Shanel was saying that, you think about your father being there, and I can go through all of these homes in my neighborhood, and, two, like, parents in the house was like almost absolutely nowhere. Like, they would make fun, like my friends that I like played number 6 with and went to play Rudolph with, like all the kids in the neighborhood, they make fun. They like, man, you gotta get your ass in the house. Like, your father's gonna kick your ass. It was a joke. It was a joke. You know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting, because like I would never look at my parents as being well off or well to do, but you start hearing them, because me and my brother got a dinner time and shit. They call us the Huxtables and all that. That's just how it goes. So.
Yeah.
And so the other part you missed, like we were saying, I was saying, no professional accolade or acknowledgement will surpass the feeling I get when I walk through the neighborhood, and especially when I was in ANC, when the homies will be like, "Hey man, I appreciate everything you're doing, man. Keep it up. You're doing good work," right? Like, and you probably see that more than Mark and I, because you're closer to the streets now, right? Yeah. Like that right there is the validation that you're doing something right, and more importantly, Mark said, like, you're acknowledging these cats. Hey man, I don't care what you did. Like, I see you. Like, I still respect you. Like, just because I'm doing this don't mean I don't respect what you're doing. If anything, I want to help you get to another level.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, man. This week I've been I do my daily walks, and I use the audio app on my phone to kind of record my thoughts early on in the walk, and periodically I'll listen to the audio later on to see if I feel the same way about those thoughts days later. And the one thing I've been kind of reflecting on this week has been the word credit, right? And in the sense of, people want credit for their success. People want credit for your success if they feel like they've invested in your life. People want credit for what they've created. People want credit for, what they've accomplished. And the thing that's been on my mind, and I've not been able to really answer it, is if we're keeping count of credit, is there a point where we anticipate the ability to cash in on that? And I think when it comes to reputation, I can't ever cash in on the credit, right? And what I mean by that is, I think sometimes we want credit so that we can get something for nothing in the future, or something for what we've done way in the past, right? So for all the accolades that people, weigh in, for all the accolades that people give me, for all the praise people give me, like, I can never cash that in, right? Because the moment that I try to leverage that to get something I don't deserve is the moment that you lose that trust. So
right.
Those praises keep me going, but what I try to do is never use those things to get away with something that I don't deserve to have. So I think.
But you got to look at it this way too, though, Sal. Like, those praises you get are evidence of conversations that are going on in rooms that you ain't in. And those conversations are currency that pave a path forward for you to make things that should be difficult not be difficult for you.
Agreed.
So from that standpoint, it's not so much the credit or you taking, it's the fact that you have an amazing track record of giving your full self to the things that are in front of you and the people around you. And people talk about it when you ain't there. And anybody who gets praises when they ain't in the room is a person everybody want to be around. So I think you should absorb those things, man. It's super dope. I think it's a man. I think I anybody ever asked me, Sal's Grant, I start reeling off the accolades, bro. So that's how it goes, man.
Yeah. My question for you guys in that vein, each of us have been either anointed or appointed or just earned leadership status in our respective tribes, right? Even the tribes that overlap among the three of us. We talk about the people that didn't quite make it, the people who just flat out didn't make it, those who are rooting for us, even though they may have a chance to continue, but they would rather just root for us. How do you balance leading in your respective tribes, whether it be your family, your neighborhood that you grew up in, your classmates? How do you lead in those tribes without becoming so distant and so far in front of them that they can no longer touch you? Like, is that important for you not to get too far out in front of other people? Because I mean, like, I give you an example, right? Shanel and I, we talk a lot. And, Shanel recently moved and Shanel has a nice place where he lives. And I could easily see people teasing him like, oh, you rich now. Or the same thing for you, Mark. Like, people can joke about, oh, man, you got this, you got that. And sometimes beneath that joke is a sense of, hey, he may be going out way further than me at this point. And I'm trying to keep up, but maybe I can't. Like, do you ever feel uneasy about that?
Yeah, I got a lot of shit for moving to New York. You know what I mean? Like, folks always wanted, like, you could make that money here. Like, why you gotta go to New York? You know what I mean? But I was like, yo, I gotta go compete. Like, by that point in time, I was addicted to competing in my industry, and I wanted to be as good as I could possibly be. The only way I could figure that out was to actually put it to the test and come to New York, which is for PR. Like, it's the mecca for PR, and corporate and consumer PR. So I had to actually come here to see if I could compete, to see if everything that I actually said I could do, I could actually do it on a high stage. Now, from a leadership standpoint, it's sort of like it was one of those things where, yeah, there were people who were like, yo, can't you kind of still be here? Because they really wanted, and I appreciate those relationships. They wanted me to stay part of the tribe, and they didn't feel like I could be part of it away. But I had to make some decisions to really be a leader, to step out on my own and go challenge myself to be better than I needed to be. So in many cases, the leadership conversation isn't one of these things where I'm looking at the tribes that I'm a part of. I'm looking at, am I actually leading myself to whatever the next level it is for me? And whoever it is that needs to congregate around that, they'll do it, they'll see it, hopefully be inspired by it, and I'll be able to share some of those lessons with them.
Yeah, that's a tough one, Silas. I mean, look, the people we talking about, right? I'll be 40 this year. I know, Silas, you 40 already. 41, right? And Mark, you're over 40, right? So the people we talking about, for all intent and purposes, we've known for over 20 years, right? So it's like, you know me, don't you? Like, don't you, like, I was the same dude. We used to split the mumbo 5-piece mumbo flat, right? like with a knee-high piece, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, so I've been fortunate enough with the real homies, they haven't faltered, right? Like, they cheering me on, and anything I can do to help them, I try. And it's not financial, because I ain't got it like that, but it's in lessons, it's in and networks, and political resources, right? So I think so I'll be 40 on the 27th of July, right? So, and I've been watching a bunch of people post stuff about, I didn't realize all of us were the same age. A lot of us, right, turning 40 this year. And I was like, well, what, like something got to be different, right? Because everybody says 50 is the halfway mark. I don't know a lot of 100-year-old people, right? So like 80 is a good run. So to me, 40 is the halfway mark. So what's going to be different for me? And I've been thinking about it, and what I keep going back to, accountability, right? Like I want to be accountable. So Silas asked me, am I going to do this? I'm going to do this. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be present. And that's the way I want to move forward, right? So I think if you just continue to be accountable to people and to when you're there, be present, man, that's all you can do, because you can't, and you will lose some, which is cool, right? It's unfortunate, but you didn't lose them, they lost you. But it does still, that doesn't negate the fact that it still weighs in the back of your head, like, damn, man, like the homie, that's how you feel, huh? And they don't have to say it. The actions and a couple of little side comments underneath really tell you how they feel. So,
right. Some people need their own come-ups to be able to relate to yours, you know?
And then you look at the Nipseys, right? And you're like, well, we ain't nowhere near that, but to some homies we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, you doing all right? Like, man, you don't want these bills, right? But
right.
But so and we're family people, right? Like, I got a wife and 2 little ones now who depend on me. So nah, I can't do the same thing I used to do. I don't even have the energy for it.
Right.
I didn't
even think about family. I thought about family when you said it, but then I started to think about extended family. The pressure, bro. Like, man, you should see some of the calls, some of the stuff that yo, like, and I got a big family. Like my mom's side. My dad's one of 8, my mom's one of 16. So I got aunts, uncles, cousins. I got everybody want to come, like, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, we moving to New York. Yeah, we coming. I'm like, hey, look, man. You know, and it's like every time there's like a reunion or something, and there's like a business meeting or something, or we want to do the scholarship fund, and I'm like, but you know what? You got to do it because you can't play the side anymore. You know what I mean? Like the spotlight get on you, you got to either. You know what I mean? Like you got to do it. You're like, hey, look, all right, come on, let's do this. I mean,
it's
tough.
Sounds like my mother, her side mirror broke, right? I don't know what she was doing. She was driving, and her passenger side mirror broke off, right? It's COVID. I don't even know where my mother's going, right? But she's like, hey, can you help me fix my mirror? And I'm like, look, I got the newborn. I'm not really trying to be that close to drive you to the place and drive you back. Like, I don't know where you've been. But then it's still almost like a remorse. Like, damn, your mother is literally 10 blocks away from you, and you are letting this get in the way of you helping her, right? I mean, like, that's the manifestation of what you're saying, right? Like, oh, what, you too busy now? Oh, white man got you all tied up with work. You can't do this now?
Yeah, that's what happens, boss. That's what happens.
And it's almost like a guilt. You're like, damn, I can't fix my mother rearview mirror, but like, Ma, sit your ass down for a minute. Like, where you even going? Like, just the Safeway's up the street. You don't even need that mirror, right? but and then my sister called me and was like, well, I got my mirror fixed. I'm like, and she my older sister. So I don't know if you got a brother, Mark, but Silas and I got a sister. So that's a whole nother dynamic, right? So
yeah, I got older sisters. They're just way older than me, so I don't have to really deal with it, like, you know. And that's from that standpoint. Our relationship can be just real cool. There's no like, you know, we balancing off and off of who's gonna take care of mom and dad just yet. So we good.
Man, it ain't. Yeah. Silence, you already know, man.
Shanel, one of the first real conversations that we had, man, many years ago, was related to some of the experiences you had in college with respect to racial unrest. And given what's happening now, it seems like, we're seeing that spark back up. But talk a bit about your college experience, going to a school that was predominantly white, and having that racial unrest really at your feet, and how you responded to that.
It's funny you bring that up, man. I'm almost, and Mark, you're in corporate America right now, so you like this is a seminal moment in corporate America, right? Like
100%.
Like where's our smart black people? Like we want to bring them to the forefront. Right? And I'm the vice chair of our black person group, whatever you want to call it, right? Like I don't shy away from it. Bring it on. I can't hide, right? So bring it on. But I'm tired because I've been fighting this. I've really been fighting all my life. But to Silence's point, I went to Rhode Island in 1998 and faced this same foolishness, right? My buddy texted me last night. I was like, yo, how's everything going? He was like, man, it's funny. We had a noose shown to us our freshman year, the first weekend on campus in Rhode Island. like Bubba Wallace, you late. Like we've been had that. Like one of my first direct experiences with racism was we were around college at the same time. I used to decorate our door, and I had a Madness shirt with my name on the back. And I would hang it on my door, and somebody wrote nigga on there. Like my first weekend in college. But to tell you the story a little better, so Bryant was it's still a predominantly white university. It's in Rhode Island, right? So what you expect. But They recruited a group of us for their first football team. So we started their football team. Think about that. Like we were their first collegiate football team, which was an honor, right? Like, damn, I'm gonna be a part of history forever. But who did they go get to start their football team? A bunch of black dudes too, right? So you bring a bunch of black dudes into this white university, they're now looking at, so now it's an immediate culture shock for everybody.
There was no such thing as change management in 1998 either. So.
Zero, right? Zero. Right. So staff weren't ready for it. Students weren't ready for it. The surrounding towns weren't ready for it. Like I don't think our parents really knew what they were getting us ready for. So December 13th, 1998, it came to a head. You had a group of fraternity brothers and football dudes who got into it. And the best example I always use to describe it is, it was like Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. I don't know if you read that. One of my favorite books.
Yeah, I read that. That was my favorite books. I read it in 11th grade. Actually, it was like one of the first books I read in that intensive English class my dad put me in.
So in reading that book, they talk about the battle royale, where it's just, they turn the lights off, and I think it's really the Mandingo fights. They just got people fighting each other, right? That's what the fight was like. It was the reincarnation of higher learning.
Damn.
I'm 17 years old. And you got to deal with this. Freshman year, first semester.
That's
like
crazy.
You know how wild college is already, right? And you got to deal with this. So, I mean, long story short, that was the first time you get arrested. Like, it was an assault. People got arrested for assault charges. And now the label is on you, right? You are who we thought you were.
Right.
So, speaking of fathers, right? Love my father to death for this one, well, for a myriad of reasons, but this one reason, I got suspended. So allegedly, I busted dude's eye socket, did a lot of damage in the fight, right? So they were like, Shanel did this, Shanel did that. It don't hurt that I'm 6'4" and my name is Shanel, right? It's real, it's real easy to pinpoint me. But I got suspended to start the second semester of the year for 3 weeks. So freshman year, second semester, you get suspended for 3 weeks. A semester is only like 3 months, right? So my fate was already sealed, right? So I told my father during Christmas break, hey, let's look at some schools in Philly, let's transfer. And he said, nah, we're not gonna let them win.
I like it.
I was like, what is this African man talking about, right? like, what do you mean we're not gonna let them win? He was like, nah, we're gonna get you an attorney, we're gonna fight it. And I'm suspended, but they had a hearing, right? So they bring me back to the school for a hearing 3 weeks in, and they're like, for disciplinary hearing. And I had an attorney there, the school had a disciplinary board there, and they're like, so, based on the findings, we're going to move to expel you. And I'm like, wait, you done held me in limbo for the past 3 weeks of the first semester. I could have transferred by now. You could have done this early on, right? So then I said, look, enough of the games. I pointed to the dude. I said, did you or did you not call me a nigger? And then I hit you. He said, yeah. I said, so why am I sitting here and he's not? They did their gathering together. They were like, okay, you're reinstated, right?
Just like that?
I mean, they deliberated, blah, 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 blah. Because, and my lawyer's sitting right there just like, yeah, this will be all over the NAACP. This will be everywhere, right? Like, we're going to take this because you all are clearly showing favoritism. So I'm sure that had something to do with it. Look, my father was a teacher at a small private school. He ain't make a lot of money. That $2,500 he paid that attorney, I know that came out of some fund, right? But he still paid it. And I think to God that he did, because that truly changed the trajectory of my life. So it's funny, Silas brings it up. Like, I keep this in my office, right? I don't know if you can see the article, but it says, changing the faces of Bryant University, right? And I'm on their board now because of the work that I put in up there. So I think the takeaway for me is that you got to be resilient and you can't let them win, man. 100%. Sometimes you do got to hit somebody in their face to get their attention. But it sickens me that was 1998. How many years later, we're still dealing with this same.
Still dealing with, right. 100%.
It's not getting better, man. So shout out to my father for really believing in me, and my sister helped with that too. But it woke me up. So so that's another reason why the boardroom racism I know how you feel about me. It's cool, right?
Right.
You can't get rid of me though, right? You can't get rid of me though. Like, I produce, and I ain't going. If I leave, it's because I'm leaving, not because of you. And I no longer seek your validation. Like, I'm good.
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question, Silas, but
no, that was good. What I thought about during, you talking about your dad specifically, the wisdom that both of you have shared in those stories about your fathers, and the three of us last year in 2019 became dads, like back to back to back. And I know I told both of you separately that I've got like maybe a dozen male friends that are like 40 or close to 40 that had their children for the first time. And you two are among the friends of mine that are in that space. So in late winter, I guess, or early spring 2019, we all had children for the first time. And we had them, I guess, a lot later than a lot of our counterparts. And I know for me, having a child as I approach 40, my approach to fatherhood is a lot different than it would have been if I had had my first child at 26. I think I'm more stable, more grounded, more patient. There are a lot of things that I'm more of now than I was, 15 years prior. What comes to mind when you think about this first year of being a dad? And Shanel, you just doubled back up and had another newborn recently. So, for you guys, man, like, just talk a bit about, what the experience has been, given the backdrop of all that you've accomplished prior to being fathers and all that you've seen prior to that.
Man, there's really no way to put in the words how much you learn in that first year of fatherhood, and how much you realize that your grasp of being able to control and compartmentalize things just isn't going to work any longer. You know what I mean? You've got to really be in tune with I got to be in tune with my daughter, and I got to really, me and Viv, we got to make sure that we on the same page. And, you know, it's hard to maintain that on a regular basis, but you know, you every day that you go through with being a dad and trying to put your best foot forward, you learn some really valuable lessons. I'd say, you know, from March 8th, 2019, and now I've probably learned more in that span of time than I have in I don't know how long. Yeah.
Is March 8th your kid's birthday?
Yep.
Luke's birthday is March 10th, 2019.
Whoa. Hey man, that's crazy.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been a lot, man. That's the Pisces kids, man. Water babies, they crazy.
Man, sorry to cut you off, but
no, man, but it's been good though. It's been awesome. Like, I was, getting into the routine, like putting her down every night. She's getting to the point now where she can like speak back. She knows how to say night night, knows how to say bye bye. That stuff like really gets you into a good place, man. So it's been awesome.
You still in DC, Mark?
No, I'm in New York. I live in Brooklyn.
Oh, damn. I was about to say, we're looking for a kid right around his age to hang out with. So.
Oh, word, yeah.
That'd make you all points.
That'd be dope. Yeah, that'd be dope. Trying to get some light over here.
You raised a good point. I don't know how you put it into words. Silas, I know you feel the same way, right? I mean, I think I love my wife, but damn, do I love my son, right? Like, man, I can't. It's difficult to put into words. It's indescribable. I understand. I will kill you for my son, right? Like I got a homie, an old head. He'd be like, man, wait till you get your kid, man. You going, man, you will destroy somebody for your child, right? Like, I never got it before, right? Like, it's crazy, but I think I truly understand what love is now, where it's like, I love that little man. Like love isn't strong enough. And to your point, Mark, being selfless with your routine, like I hate when I'm late to come home and I can't put him to bed, or like if my wife has to bathe him by herself. It's like, no. Like it's unfortunate that your life isn't really yours, but it's to a better cause. And Silas, I think to your point, like, being in corporate America and having some success and navigating through that matrix, it's what you said earlier. It's like, oh, nah, homie, you got to hop, jump, and get over the moon, because this foundation has been laid for you. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to be at your school too, because you have no choice, because we got to get this thing going. We late, right? Like, Molly has no choice. Like, Molly, you're going to have to choose, but we're going to guide your direction. So to me, it's an added sense of responsibility, right? I just signed up for some more life insurance, right? Because he has to be good. He has to be good. And now my daughter, they have to be good. We can't be that story that you see on the news. Like, nah, we know better. So we got to do better. So that's the parenthood.
Yeah, man. For me, I think it is. I got a friend who also had a baby in that period, and we joke with each other. He'll send me a text sometimes. He has a little girl. She's like a month younger than Molly. He'll text me and say, man, she's still here. And we'll just bust out laughing on the text. And it's like, his point is that, the pregnancy for your wife, or the woman that you're in a relationship with, that's 9 months. You do the baby shower, you do the newborn thing. And you have enough gas for that portion of the trip, and then you realize, like, the baby's only 1.5, and God willing, you want to be here till she's like 40 or 50, right? And it's a very long time in front of you, and you just have to pace yourself. And I was talking to Valerie the other night, and I was saying to her that, Mark, like to your point, like I typically put her to bed, and I try to allow Valerie to have as much rest as possible. And it used to be a time where if Molly was restless, we would try to talk her through it. Like, no, you got to lay down. You got to lay down. No, come here real quick. No, let's go lay down. And now I don't even say anything. I just cut the light off. And when she trying to squirm out, I just bring her back down without talking to her. And what I realized is that you can have control of the situation without trying to command control. And that's important because you're in it for the long haul. Like, she's going to have a personality. Shanel, your son Luke's going to have a personality. They're not going to always agree with you. They're going to try to show you up. But I think the most important thing is when you try to force control, that's when you lose control. So I'm just trying to really be as patient as I can be. And saying that, man, this is a long haul, and you got to love every moment of it. Shanel, I put Mark and his daughter on to Daniel Tiger, and there's this song on the show called "Enjoy the Wild," right? And it's a song that says "Enjoy the wild that's happening now," and that's what I try to do with her, man. I don't think about.
You said the wild, right? WOW.
Yep, enjoy the wild that's happening now. And I try to live by that now, man. That mantra is one that I think about every day. Like, just be there.
How much have you learned from them songs? Like we sing them songs in here every day. I mean, we've had active conversations about a Daniel Tiger song. Something that it's like relevant to what we talking about at the time.
No, listen, bro.
Daniel Tiger? You've been holding up.
So Shanel, Daniel Tiger is a spinoff from Mr. Rogers. So he used to have the train set with the trolley.
Yeah.
And Daniel Tiger was one of the puppets that was on the route. So they basically made him the feature person. It's animation now. So they do a really, really incredible job of
it's on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, PBS, the whole thing.
Yeah, just download the PBS app. Like, Daniel Tiger is on a continuous loop in his house almost.
So your daughter watches TV. I can't get him to sit down and watch TV.
Listen,
what?
She locked.
It's over. Locked, homie.
Locked in, man. I mean, she would not watch anything else with that intensity.
Right.
But they do a great job of like bringing home everyday valuable lessons. I mean, honestly, not being biased, I think it is really one of the best produced shows for children I've ever seen in my 41 years of life.
Yeah, it's all emotional intelligence. It's basically teaching kids emotional intelligence, and it's insane. Like, the things they talk about are like really major things. Like, there was this one episode where one of the characters is this cat named Katarina. And they were having a dad's camping trip, and she showed up with her mom. And she was like, "But I don't have a dad." So what? So they literally explained this to the kids, and then they like, families are different. That's okay. Like, that is what it is. Like, there was somebody there with their uncle, families are different. So now kids wake up with the expectations that I'm gonna meet people that got families that are different, and that's all right.
It's a really, really good show, man. So that "Enjoy the Wild" song, man, is something I live by. I sing that song to myself almost every day.
Well, that's like your I said something to my wife the other day, and I try to be more conscious of it. What did you say? Damn, this happened to me. Nah, this didn't happen to me. What did you say? It's just a small change in a word. I get to do this. Not that I have to do this, but I get to do this. Right? Like, damn, I gotta go put this boy down. Nah, I get to put my son down every night.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I had a
that mindfulness.
Yeah, man. I had a story I shared on Instagram on my stories, man, about a young man that I know, 18 years old, having a custody issue out of town. He's got a baby that was born. His baby's like my daughter's age almost. His son is maybe 4 months older than my daughter. And like, he's 18. He's 18. He just graduated from high school like weeks ago. He's got a custody issue, and he reached out to me for help because I know him, through helping him out in the past. And, I'm on the phone with him trying to talk him through it, trying to keep him emotionally intact. And here I am, in the house watching my daughter, and, she's whining a little bit while I'm on the phone with him. And I had to realize I get to do that with her. It's not that I've got to watch her. I get to watch her because he doesn't get to watch his son. So, it's just a constant reminder, man, like the things that we have on our plate have either been things that we earned or things we've been given, but we get to do those things and we get to have stewardship over those things because we got a chance that other people didn't get where we came from, and we took advantage of it, man. So, that's the thing that I keep in the front of my mind. You get to, not you got to.
That's that small word change can completely change your perspective.
Yeah.
I value that a lot.
Yeah.
Because all this stuff is in your mind, right? Like, I don't know, Mark, sometimes before I have a big meeting or a presentation, I'll put on some go-go, right? and my colleagues are like, "So you always getting all hype." I said, well, I'm grounded in what I'm grounded in, right? So before football, we listen to go-go, right? So that's how
the ritual of it. Yeah.
That's how I get hyped, whether I'm going to go play football or whether I'm going to go into a meeting. So your mindset is truly half of the battle. So being able to say, I get to do this, that shift changes everything.
Yeah. So both of you all talked a bit about your career getting in the groove. Mark, you referred to it as, that drive to compete. And obviously success has come with the accomplishments. And oftentimes when people accomplish a lot and they reach certain heights, money is still a factor, but it's not as much of a factor. You're no longer driven by opportunities that are related to money, but more so opportunities that are related to accomplishment. Is money still a factor? Where does it rank? Was there ever a shift, man? Like, this is more about me being in my purpose than it is me gaining, a higher salary. Like, where does money rank right now in terms of like how you decide on next steps for success?
At that, Mark.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think for me, it's always going to be a very important variable to manage. And the only thing that's changed is how you're going to manage it long term and how you're going to convert the money that you're making now into wealth for the future. So from that standpoint, I'm looking at paths forward that get you to a place where you can create enough wealth to generate a legacy for your family, right? So, like there's a couple opportunities on the table right now that would require, from a salary standpoint, to take a step back in order to gain sort of greater equity for the long term, and maybe even take something that I have a ton of equity in and sell it on the market and make a shit ton of money, which would be more than what I could have made in that same period, just, sticking with the salary based piece that I have. That's something I have to consider. Whereas I'd say 10 years ago, I wouldn't even have considered it. I'd have been like, what? I mean, I hear it. That's cool and all, but I need this right now. So I think the ability to play the long game with that is the only thing that shifted, but it's still a top priority. I think being respected by my peers is really like a real close second, and being respected by all of the people around me, family, things of that nature, all of those things, that respect factor thing is like a really close second. But you definitely got to make sure that, because like you said it earlier, Sal, like you talked about your dad's upbringing and where you could have been had his ability to convert his labor into wealth with fair value, how much further ahead you'd be. So from that standpoint, I got a limited amount of time to create as much wealth as I possibly can, so that my child is further ahead than where I was when I got out into the world. So.
Well said, Mark, because money has to be a variable in the equation, and a sizable one, and not for accumulation of material goods. I think more so for a representation of value, right? Because I'll be damned if I'm doing the same thing or more than you, and I don't get compensated the same. Really, I mean, as you said, respecting your peers, that's what we talking about, right? Like, hold on. I'm running circles around this dude. You got to compensate me. Like, if we were all even, that's fine, but I'm crushing him, and you paying him that, so I got to get justly compensated. But it's not everything, right? It's more so a measurement of equality, not like, look, you got a house, the more you want, right? Like I joke with my buddies, I'm like, man, if I hit the numbers, ain't a whole lot going to change, right? I drink good already, right? I think I eat all right? I got a house, we drive a decent car. Like what I don't even know what the wealthy, super wealthy do, right? So I don't see myself changing a whole lot. So it's not about, like I said, accumulation. I'm not gonna go buy a Ferrari. I don't even like one, right? It's more so about that accumulation of wealth for the next generation. Make sure my kids are good, being able to pass on a legacy. And I think the biggest part for me these days is, and this whole awareness that society seems to be undertaking is, I need mental stability and freedom, right? Like I it's hard to say you're a slave of work. I don't even want to use that word. I think that's too infinitesimal. I think it's like, I want, Mark is at a point in his career where he's done well and he knows the job. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I'm at the same point now where there's always stuff to learn, but I'm confident in my ability, and I don't have to shuck and jive for anybody anymore. I don't have to. I want to run the show my way, and to me, that freedom is far. A buddy always said to me, "Look, freedom is doing what you want and getting paid what you want for it." Right? To me, I think that's more the objective than making money. Mark, we probably both could go take other jobs and make a ton of more money, but it would require a compromise in our integrity. That's not.
100%.
That's not what I'm about, right? I'm about how can I get closer to getting away from the matrix? Because as the more you get in it, Silas, frankly, the more it sucks you in, right? So I'm trying to get out of the matrix while still being able to afford a quality of life for my family that we deserve, that can lead to some wealth accumulation, so we don't have to be behind.
Right. You got options, right?
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And I look around, I'm here in like New York City, and I see like our counterparts, maybe a little younger than us, can come to New York on Pop's dime, figure some things out, try, acting, anything, but still sort of working like a service job or something, or something of that nature, and still live a really good New York life. And we could never do that because we got to pay rent, we got to pay all our bills, we probably got to take care of some other people in our family, and like it's that type of freedom to, if you want to go and follow a dream or two, that I ain't got to sit here and tell you like, yeah, dreams don't pay the bills. Like that's only been uttered in a Black household. Like it doesn't get uttered anywhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so true, man. It's like, I mean, look, home ownership and insurance are the two ways wealth gets accumulated in America, right? Somebody dies and bequeaths you some money, or your asset of home ownership develops and the equity accumulates and you take it out. That's what funds small businesses. That's what funds college tuitions. That's what funds so much home equity, right? Well, goddamn. My house, Silas, I'm the first Black family to live there, right? The deed still has covenants that say you can't sell to Blacks and the Jews, right? Like, we're so far behind. Like, we got to get this bread to at least begin to make just marginal steps to improvement, because we are so far behind. So yeah, now the bread is always in the picture, but it's not the only objective by far, because if you're conscious, you just can't work these jobs and just chase the money, because they will eat you alive, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, fellas, man, it's really been good talking to the both of you. I'm fortunate that I know the both of you, and I'm happy that I got a chance to introduce the two of you to one another. So, this is, and I've said this on the other recordings, this is my way of contributing to my overlapping tribes, man. So, I hope that this is the first of several conversations between the two of you and the three of us, man. And given the climate of the country and the globe, it's just important that we come even closer together and make a real concerted effort to ensure that we are supportive and making ourselves available to one another, man. So I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate the both of you for being a part of this. And it's my hope that at some point down the line, this conversation, this introduction is beneficial for the both of you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I do agree. I'm going to definitely pledge to make sure that me and Shanel connect on a regular basis. I think you sent a text to both of us, so I'm going to lock it in, Shanel, and hit you up from time to time, see how things are going. So.
Now, I definitely got to rap to you, because my man is in agency work up in New York.
Oh, nice. Yeah, then we got to connect, 100%.
It's funny, I wonder if you were a part of this. They just signed a pledge it was a bunch of ad groups that they signed a pledge for.
Yeah, it was a letter. Yeah, it's commitment to diversity and inclusion.
Oh,
it came out. Yeah. Our founder was on the advisory board for it.
Oh, so you yeah. Okay, yeah.
100%. Yeah, and I'm looking for talent in healthcare too. So we definitely got to rap.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
You did it again.
All right.
I was wondering. I was like, why did you choose Mark and because when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you said, I got this deal I want you to meet. I'm like, well, what is he in healthcare? Like, what do you? But it's like-mindedness. I see.
Yeah, it is, man. You guys, you'd be surprised the conversations I've had with the both of you that are like mirror conversations. So, you guys were like among the first two connections that I was like, this has to happen. So
sweet. I appreciate it, man. That's what's up.
And shout out to you for following through, man. I know you told me about that course that you were going to take, and I was like, did he get distracted? What happened? But I see this is it. This is the manifestation of it. So good work, man. It's easy to be distracted during COVID.
Yeah. All right, fellas, man. Well, again, thank you guys, man, a million, and we'll be talking soon.
All right, bro.
Definitely, man. All right, bro. Peace.
All right.